Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Bobby Hammz here with a bit of a different video today. This is going to be about Star Trek Discovery. I recently finished the season 3 finale over there on CBS AllAccess, and I think I'd like to say that I feel now what Star Wars fans have been feeling ever since the conclusion of the Disney Star Wars trilogy. Extremely disappointed, kind of mad, really, kind of mad, just a little bit mad. You can't hear it in my voice, obviously, because I'm not into screaming into microphones and all that. But this isn't a Star Wars thing. This is a Star Trek thing, and I don't consider this Star Trek Discovery thing to be a Star Trek show. And I was gonna write a script about it. I actually wrote one when the show premiered 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was, because I have been a Star Trek fan for quite some time. I think since I was about 10 years old. And my very first show was Star Trek The Next Generation. So I grew to love Picard and Riker and, Data, LaForge, the whole crew there. And then of course I went on to Star Trek Voyager, Janeway, Harry, Kim, Chakotay, Tuvok. I dug all those episodes. And then I learned about the original series with Kirk and Spock and Bones and Scotty, and Sulu, Uhura, of course, so. And then once Deep Space Nine came out, Deep Space Nine took me by what was a shock to me. I love Deep Space Nine. That's my favorite one of all of them. And then of course Enterprise, which not really the best of all the Star Treks, but it's there. You know what I mean? It's there. It's part of the whole canon universe of Star Trek. Xindi War and all that, the Cold War stuff and the time travel thing with the hologram dude. As you can already tell, this video is not going to have too many clips of anything really, because it's not something I'm really putting together like a video. In the same way that I didn't want to write a script for this Star Trek Discovery series, this season actually, I'm not going to bother putting into any extra work into cutting out video clips and collecting, a bunch of screenshots and posters and photos and all that stuff. It's not really something I'm too enthused about, making into a grand production, really. Like I said, I did write a 7-page script a couple years ago when the show first premiered, and it was kind of like a culmination of my enjoyment of Star Trek, because I haven't seen any live Star Trek up to that point ever since Enterprise. So it was pretty cool. I was like, wow, after 50 years of programming and this long hiatus since Enterprise ended, finally a new Star Trek show was coming out. So I wrote this like about a 7-page script, kind of detailing my whole history with Star Trek and how it introduced me to sci-fi in the the TV medium, because I first got into sci-fi through H.G. Wells' Time Machine, the book. So H.G. Wells introduced me to a sci-fi sort of in a broad sense, but really just in literary form. And then Star Trek introduced me to sci-fi in a visual medium. So I wrote that whole 7-page thing, and I watched the first 2 seasons of Star Trek Discovery. And I think the first season was okay. Well, really the first couple episodes were okay, and then it seemed like just a show. The first 2 seasons were just a show. I didn't really see too much connection with Star Trek, other than the name Star Trek. It seemed like a very disconnected show from the TOS and Deep Space Nine and Next Generation and Enterprise and Voyager. It seemed very disconnected and very different from those things. But I kind of took it with a grain of salt, being that the whole process nowadays in Hollywood is just kind of take something that's old and morph it into something barely recognizable from the original template. So I kind of took it as kind of its own thing. I didn't really enjoy it, but I watched it. It was kind of like background noise, really. So I didn't really care too much for it. I kind of, like I said, I gave it the benefit of the doubt with the whole thing with the characters on there. And after the end of this season, season 3, this season was so bad, was so terrible to watch. It was frustrating to watch, frustrating to view, that it forced me to kind of look back on seasons 1 and 2 and it's just a generally poorly written show. I just don't like the show. I don't like the main character, Michael Burnham, which is why I did take some notes. By the way, I'm not just going to ramble the whole way through this little video here. The thing is, Michael Burnham, who's played by Sonequa Martin Green, I think her name is, from Walking Dead. She was one of the most boring characters on The Walking Dead. I think she was in season 5, the Terminus season. She was one of the most boring characters on that show, and she left that show to get her own show here with the Star Trek Discovery. And it's not really Star Trek Discovery. It should be really called the Michael Burnham Adventures, featuring background people on a ship in space. That's what it should be called. The Michael Burnham Adventures, featuring background people on a ship in space. All right, the words Star Trek are in the title, and it don't belong there because it's just a bunch of lazy references to other Trek characters. You know, Michael Burnham is somehow Spock's half-sister. And I was like, what? Why didn't Spock ever say anything about a half-sister through all of his time? You know, under TOS, his appearances on Next Generation, and not one word, not in any of the movies. You never remember the half sister. So I was like, okay, whatever, you know, whatever. And it made me wonder, like, why couldn't she be her own person, right? Why couldn't Michael Burnham just be Michael Burnham by herself? Why does she need to be connected to this legendary character in the franchise? Because fuck you. That's why. She had to be Spock's sister. Okay? Because the show needed an excuse to use Leonard Nimoy's likeness. Because, you know, that's what longtime fans want, right? And these fucking reboot sequel disasters, right? They want references to Luke. They want references to Tatooine. They want references to Spock. They want lazy ass references to Kirk and Pike. That's what they want. They don't want actually new characters with their own goddamn personalities and their own wishes and dreams. They just want, oh, well, hey, remember that thing? It's from that couple years ago. Remember that thing? Well, we're mentioning it in this show. Aren't we great writers? We're so great, right? And it all comes off like a very vacant and cynical homage to characters, you know, that you grew up with, which is kind of annoying. You know, it's kind of annoying. It's very lazy. It's very annoying at the same time. You know, it's like, why does she need to have a forced, previously unknown, nonsensical lineage to a popular icon? Like, why does Rey all of a sudden, oh, she's Palpatine's daughter or granddaughter? It's like, huh? Huh? Where'd that come from? It's the same vein with Michael Burnham and her connection to Spock, you know. And Michael Burnham, in the Michael Burnham Adventures, she started the Federation War between the Klingons. That was her thing. The thing that was really a big deal in the original series with Kirk and Spock and all that. Yeah, that was Michael Burnham started that war because somehow Star Trek Discovery takes place, I guess, it's supposed to take place 10 years before Kirk and all them. But she started the Klingon War, and she's also the one who ended it. Okay, so yeah, that's a thing that she did. And that's season 1 and 2, I believe. Mostly season 1, I think. Those Klingons look horrible. They look really, really bad. They look like bloated grapes left out in the sun for too long. They look bad. They look really, really bad. But the reason I say this show should be called Michael Burnham's Adventures with some background people on a ship in space is because Michael Burnham is the savior of the universe in Star Trek Discovery. She is the savior of the universe. There's, hands down, no one can do it better than she can. No one. She never fails at anything, but she's always fucking up. So I don't know how you square that peg. Okay, because you fuck up, that means you fail. But her failures always leads to success for her. You know what I mean? I would say she's a Mary Sue, like Mulan or Rey from Star Wars or Captain Marvel, where she's just overpowered. She can do whatever she wants. I mean, she's not really a Mary Sue in that regard because she fucks up all the time. She's constantly fucking up. But she's like a fuck up that never fails. I don't know if that's a paradox. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. But she's basically a new style of Disney princess who's not at Disney. You know what I mean? It's the craziest thing ever. And she's super unlikable and unrelatable. She's just a poorly written character. Like, and I say this because when she first gets introduced in like episode 1, season 1, this is how the character is introduced. She's on a ship with Michelle Yeoh, who is Philippa Georgiou on this ship. The ship has no name. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. The crew on the ship, they're irrelevant. You never learn any of their names or what they're about. They're all irrelevant. So Michael Burnham is introduced with Philippa Georgiou, and Philippa's the captain, and Michael Burnham is the first commander, right? Burnham is introduced as this actually mutinous commander. She wants to do what her thing is, investigate this Klingon ship or whatever, and Georgiou's like, yeah, we don't want to trigger a war, so we're not going to do that. So what does Burnham do? She incapacitates her captain, and it says, yeah, go ahead and fire on the Klingons because that's what they respect is force. They respect a show of force. Now this is, of course, we learn then later that Michael Burnham grew up on Vulcan. This is how she became Spock's half-sister. She grew up on Vulcan, where they worship logic, right? They worship logic, and she received a message from Sarek, who is who's Spock's dad, right? She receives a message from Sarek and asks him what should she do in this situation with facing off against the Klingons. He tells her, hey, yeah, what worked for us may not work for you, so be cautious if you're going to do the same thing that we did. So what does she do? She does the same thing that the Vulcans did, just like, okay, well, I'll just do that regardless and whatever. So she gets her whole crew killed in starting this war with the Klingons. She gets Philippa Georgiou killed when they beam over to the Klingon ship, and so she gets locked up. This is like the first 2 episodes of the series here, and she's supposed to be the main character. We're supposed to root for someone who disobeys orders, turns against her crew, and winds up getting them killed. No, that's dumb. That's so dumb. Dumb. Right? And throughout the whole series, she whispers so much. I mean, it's just so much whispering. I don't know why. Every third line she says of dialogue is just so much whispering. It's like, oh my God, why are you whispering so much? Everyone else is speaking at like a normal vocal level, so you can understand what they're saying. But she's like, you gotta listen to me. You gotta listen to me. As if like the whispering is what's supposed to convey a serious, scene, is what's supposed to make you think like, oh wow, this is a dire moment because she's whispering. What? That's not how you convey seriousness. You convey seriousness by actually having a serious tone that everyone can hear way in the back. She's like, this, I can't believe it. I've got to save the universe. Okay, it's only I'm the only one who can do it. I'm Michael Burnham. These people behind me don't matter. You don't understand. It's like, what? I can't hear you. What's that? What are you saying? What, can you speak up for those of us in the back? Can you speak up? I'm saying we all have to attack the Klingons right now. And it's so annoying. It's so goddamn annoying. It's like, why are you whispering? Why does he whisper so much? So much whispering. I've never heard any actor whisper so goddamn much in anything. Just constantly with the whispering. And I don't believe it. I don't know why so much whispering. Just speak up. Can't hear you. Speak up. The whispering thing, I noticed it so much because her character has so very little development to it beyond her always being right and her always succeeding at the thing she fucks up, right? That's all she gets. She fucks up, she succeeds, and that's her whole character development. She does what she wants. She takes no input from others, even while she was still the commander on the ship. And then when she went on to a discovery to become a science officer, she took no input from anyone. It was, well, I've got an idea, and I think my idea might work. Everyone else would be like, well, maybe you should try this. Well, it's not my idea, so I guess we'll just go with my idea. And they're like, okay, I guess we'll just go with her idea. She whispered her idea, so she's the main character, and we're just here for fucking cardboard cutouts, I guess. So let's go with her idea, right? She's always putting her others' lives at risk. Always. She disobeys orders all the time, right? All the time. It's so like, how are you on this ship constantly disobeying orders? fucking everything up. Somehow everything succeeds despite her. And she still is allowed to just be on the ship. And it's like, what the hell is this? What is this show? What is this show? This isn't Star Trek. Right? The show is not Star Trek. And I know the premise of the show, with her being the lead and not the captain, kind of goes against the formula that Star Trek has had before, because every previous show has had, the captain kind of be the main focus of the show. You know what I mean? But she ends up as a captain anyway, later on. In this season, actually, the season finale of season 3, she ends up as the captain anyway. So the show kind of betrayed its own premise of not focusing on a captain as the lead of the show. You know what I mean? And anyway, Michael Burnham is a god. So like Captain Kirk said, what does God need with a spaceship? You know what I mean? She should just get out of that captain's chair and give it to someone else. She's already a god. She doesn't need a spaceship. She can do whatever she wants. So why bother with a spaceship? With better writing, I think the show could have been setting up future plot lines for season 4, 5, 6, whatever, and where Michael Burnham's antics about, doing whatever she wants, flouting the rules and regulations and putting everyone's life in danger. I thought those antics would have sown distrust, throughout the crew of her, because of how she was mutinous towards one captain, and then she got the crew killed. And with this season finale, she effectively kind of usurped this captain's authority and was basically promoted to captain. And Tilly, who was the acting captain, which she was an ensign anyway. I don't know why the hell she was in that chair to begin with. You don't make an ensign a captain. Like, that's just dumb. Who the hell writes this trash? It's just dumb. I know I read a lot of comments that were saying Harry Kim would be super mad, and Harry Kim would be mad. Okay, Harry Kim from Voyager. He was an ensign also. He never became captain just because, So anyway, garbage. The script for this show is just garbage. It's just garbage. But anyway, I thought that the show would be setting up her eventual kind of conflict with her crew in the future, because she was just so reckless with their lives while doing whatever she wanted, because no one can lead like Michael Burnham. So good writing would have set up a future mutiny against Michael Burnham because of her antics. So I'm like, okay, well, that's why we were told not to like her in the first and second episode, is because she was going to get her comeuppance finally, season 4, 5, and 6 or whatever. But I didn't see any sign of that. So the show is kind of going forward with the focus on the captain, and like I said, it's betrayed its own premise of not focusing on the captain. You know what I mean? So just garbage writing that seemed to have forgotten even the basics of its own ideas and its own character focus. Not Star Trek, not even a great written show, and no one else has any character development either. Michael Burnham's always right. That's her character. That's her whole character arc. I fuck up, but I end up being right anyway. But no one else has any other character development on the show besides Tilly, the redhead ensign, who became captain. But I think that's mostly because of the actor, and not because of writing for her, because everyone in the show is written like trash. And like I said, previous shows, Star Trek shows, did focus on the captain before, from the original series all the way through Enterprise. But this is a huge, monstrous, big booty butt. You also learned about everyone else on the crew. You learned about Spock. You learned about Sulu, Scotty, Bones, Uhura. And with TNG, there were actual episodes dedicated to having the viewer learn more about Riker and Data, Worf, Dr. Crusher, Troy, LaForge, that one rebel fighter, I forget her name, but she was on a couple episodes. I think she was on an episode of Outer Limits, where she time traveled to kill some guy. But her character with the Maquis, she was allowed to serve on board the Enterprise for a little bit. I think it was like season 6. You even got to know the annoying Wesley Crusher. You know what I'm saying? Even Beverly Crusher's annoying ass son. You got to know about him a little bit. And it was the same thing with Voyager. You learned about Janeway was the captain, but you got to know Chakotay and Tuvok, Harry Kim, 7 of 9 when she was assimilated with the crew. And it was the same thing with Deep Space Nine, which I think had like the largest consistent cast of all the Trek shows. It's like, even though Captain Sisko was a driving force of the story, and he was kind of mainly the main story you followed throughout the whole series, you learned about his son Jake Jake's goals, Jake's Ferengi friend Nog, R.I.P. Aaron Eisenberg, Nog's Uncle Quark, Kira's beliefs, Security Chief Odo and his link to the Founders. You learn about Garrick, the Cardassians. You learn Dr. Bashir. You learn about Dax. Like, there were even a few episodes that developed the characters of the Jem'Hadar soldiers from the Dominion. The frontline villains, who should have just been cannon fodder, had personalities. Like even Morn, a character who sat at Quark's bar for 7 seasons and never said one word. Morn never said a thing, but he even had more character development than everyone on the Michael Burnham adventures. That's how trash this show is written. Even a character that says nothing, sits in one spot for 7 seasons, does nothing, says nothing, has more character development than everyone on this goddamn wannabe Star Trek show. It's not Star Trek by any stretch of the imagination. It's not. It's not. It's like a puff piece for the phony, woke crowd in Hollywood. Season 2 of The Boys did a absolutely perfect job of pointing out that stupidity that these shitty writers, rather than include a token black guy like they used to do before to prove that they aren't racist, now they include a token gay person, a token non-binary person, a token Asian person, and so on, to prove to themselves and to their friends how accepting and progressive they are. But you can tell that their alertness to their shortcomings in representation in Hollywood, how woke they are, in other words, isn't really genuine because of all of those tokens that they don't get to say or do anything of substance regarding the plot. And they don't get any character development. You know what I mean? They're merely skin tones, their genders, and sexual preferences that were thrown on the screen and used as a means to help Michael Burnham save the universe. In actuality, the tokenism isn't progressive at all. It's actually very regressive in how it segregates and stereotypes the cutouts of diverse people. You really see it with this season, because if you watch, this other character comes on the show, this black guy named Book. He's supposed to be some kind of courier or whatever, but he usually speaks with Michael Burnham. She's black woman, and a black guy. They usually speak together. And then there's this Asian guy that barely says anything. There's the gay Dr. Stamets and his gay boyfriend. They usually just hang out together. And then there was another character introduced who's a non-binary. I think they were a Dax. I don't remember. Or a Trill. I think they were a Trill. Right? But it's non-binary, and the non-binary Trill, they hang out with themselves, with their past lover who died but has a memory of. It's fucking stupid. That whole thing is fucking stupid. But the groups, the labels, hang out with each other, right? They never converse, they never mix with one another, right? Unless Michael Burnham is moving the story forward. That's the only time they mix. And then it's all about the mission, not about their personal lives or their personal struggles. You know what I mean? The blacks talk with each other. The alphabet crowd talks with each other. The Asian doesn't talk much at all. And none of them ever have a conversation amongst themselves or with each other as a mix if it's not about the plot. It's just like, why even put them in there? Why bother putting them in there? This show is so stupid. It's just a terrible, terrible show. Such a fucking phony show. And like, going back to season 1, Michael Burnham as the first black woman to be the lead on a supposed Star Trek show. Star Trek, of course, in heavy quotations there, to be a complete fuck up, right? She's a complete fuck up from the moment you meet her. She's a fuck up. And these writers, in their whole woke alertness, right? They take this black woman, they make her a fuck up, and then they send her to jail in the first 2 episodes of the series. It's like, damn, son. Wow, that sure is woke. And move past, such lazy, societal and like harmful stereotypes of black people, right? Yeah, they're fuck ups and they go to jail like immediately. Such fucking garbage, this show. Such garbage. Everyone on Discovery is so inoffensive and dispassionate too. Like the characters that are there, the cutouts of people that are there. And honestly, I don't know like anyone's name. I know Natalie Dormer's name. I think her Natalie Dormer, the woman who was on Game of Thrones with the House Tyrell. I know her name is Lieutenant Detmer. That's it. The black girl that sits next to her, I don't know what her name is. The Asian guy, I don't know what his name is. I know Saru because he's one of the 3 main characters. I know Tilly and Michael Burnham. And then Book is easy to remember. His name is Book. but he's not even a member of the crew. But no one else on the crew, I don't know anyone else's names. Not one. There was one episode this season where they're tracing down the source of this ridiculous dilithium explosion called the Burn. At first, when I heard that Burn thing, I thought they were talking about the Burnham, because she's the savior of the universe, so she's got to be, and she fucks up everything. So I figured, the Burn was Michael Burnham. She fucked everything up again, and then she's going to be one to solve it, right? Because that's literally what happened in season 1 and 2. She was the cause of a bunch of destruction, and she was the one that ended up solving the cause of destruction. So it show is so ridiculous. So anyway, with this episode, there's this one character that I guess she was like a security person or whatever, and they were going to the source of this thing, and I swear I saw her maybe 3 or 4 times, never knew what her name was. Not a clue. And she was like, "Oh, I don't want to be a part of this crew," but then she was a part of the crew, and I have no clue what the hell her name was. That's how little development every character on this show has. I barely know their names. Everyone else that shows up on camera, there's another black guy. I guess he does the comms or something. I don't know what his name is. Not a clue. It's so bad. They're also dispassionate, and that Michael Burnham, in comparison, looks like a manic ping pong ball, or maybe a pinball too, just bouncing around from everywhere. And there's so much crying on this show too. Like, I don't get why so much crying. I don't understand. I actually read an article the other day before I was thinking about doing this, because I've been putting this off for a couple of days actually, and I read an article. Was an article or something online that said Michael Burnham's introduction to the crowd, to the audience, was so poorly received that the writers at this so-called show decided to make her more, I guess, appealing. So they just had her cry more. Like, that was their solution. So if you don't want people see you as an asshole, I guess just cry more. Cry as often as you can. This is like junior high school writing. That's why she cries so much. And there's a lot of crying in it too. It's just so much crying. It's like the people who are on this ship, assuming this is Star Trek still, right? The people who are on this ship have forgotten that they're part of a military organization, okay? This military organization that employs a chain of command where rules and regulations for conduct have to be followed. And if you don't follow those rules, there are degrees of punishment for not doing that, for not following the rules, for breaking regulations. And there's always the expectation that they might be killed should they, have to engage in combat with an enemy force. Yet there's just so much crying. It's like they all forgot that whole thing about being part of a military organization and your life is on the line, etc., etc. The crying takes place during moments that don't even seem like they're worth crying about. It just seems like it's put in there in random spots just to make her cry, or whisper first. Gotta whisper. Can I whisper? Whisper, whisper, whisper. Whisper, whisper, whisper. I'm Michael Burnham and I saved the world. I saved the galaxy. I saved the universe. I saved all of reality. Like, that's Star Trek Discovery. That's all it is. Whispers and cries. Whispers and cries. That's all Michael Burnham does. When she isn't, of course, single-handedly saving everyone from everything that she fucks up. This is like one of the worst shows of Star Trek I've ever seen in my life. This is worse than Enterprise. This actually absolutely is worse than Enterprise. Absolutely worse. This is worse than Picard. And Picard's actually closer to being a Star Trek show, mainly because, you got the Patrick Stewart back as Jean-Luc Picard, but that show's not very good either. It's not as bad as this though. This is like the bottom of the fucking fish barrel here. This is the slop in the bucket at a bar. Like, this is no good. I don't know if this overflowed toilet of a series has been approved for a 4th season, but like, I'm done with it. I'm cutting my losses here. Like, it has proven to be such a pandering and uninteresting giant waste of time. I don't care to keep following the poorly written adventures of Michael Burnham or any of the cardboard cutouts of diverse people that travel with this fucking boring ass, unlikable goddamn sociopath. Like, this show is just the worst. It's just so goddamn awful. I've said before that I don't necessarily like pointing out all the problems with movies and TV shows because I'm woke to how difficult film productions are. But when there's no effort put into the production like this, I can't take that stance because it's obvious to me that there's no concern for the final product. You know what I mean? And you're attaching it to something as with such longevity as Star Trek or like Star Wars or Doctor Who. You're just taking something that has 50, 60 years of just content and fan base, and you just, let me just slap it on let me just slap this brand onto my shit show here. I'll just call it that. Yeah, fine. That's good enough. Are they gonna buy the merchandise yet? Well, I'm actually on that. There is a YouTube channel. I gotta find it, but it kind of explains why this show, this so-called Star Trek show and this so-called Star Trek Picard aren't really Star Trek canon, which kind of makes me feel a little bit better at the end of the day, knowing that they're not really part of canon of Star Trek. And that was because of the way the rights worked for the shows itself. Like all of the Star Trek from 1966 all the way up through, I think, 2009, I want to say, whenever it goes from the original series all the way through Enterprise, and it includes the movies, the Patrick Stewart movies, so all 10 of those movies. But those rights are like separated from Paramount, and Paramount's the one that used to make all the episodes and the movies. But then they got bought out by, I don't know, Viacom or something, and then Viacom bought CBS or something. It was a lot of corporate maneuvering going on. But at the end of the day, it was that company that had them both under the umbrella of Viacom, had CBS and Paramount under the umbrella of Viacom. But then the two companies, CBS and Paramount, diverged so much that Viacom split them into two. But the licenses for all the old Trek stuff remained with CBS, and then Paramount got none of those licenses. So all the toys and merchandise and movies and TV shows that were made prior to the split all stayed with CBS, and then the rest of the stuff was just for Paramount. So, but because of contractual obligations, Paramount can't make anything that's less than 25% like similar to the previous stuff. So they can't have even something like as simple as the uniforms, the solid color uniforms of the original series. They can't use that in the Paramount stuff. It has to be 25% different in order for it to be sold as its own thing. So the uniforms have to look different. The storylines have to look different. Like, I don't know. It's a bunch of nonsense. So that's kind of where the J.J. Abrams stuff comes in. I think 2009. I don't know when that movie came out. But the J.J. Abrams Kelvin timeline thing with the planet exploding and all that shit, and Chris Pine being Captain Kirk and all that stuff, like that's Paramount Star Trek. And so is this fucking Discovery shit. This is Paramount Star Trek, not CBS Star Trek. So it's a whole different kind of timeline, a whole different kind of universe. That's why it's its own thing. It just basically, like I said, shares the Star Trek brand name, but it's not like old Star Trek. It's not the good Star Trek. It's not the thoughtful Star Trek. This is just J.J. Abrams fucking pew 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 boom 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 whisper 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 whisper. I'm the savior of the universe. It's that Star Trek. Just the fucking space western shoot 'em up. We don't dive into any kind of deep problems with society, or we don't show off any kind of like cool new aliens or go to the fantastical places. No, it's just we copy and paste old stories from original Star Trek, and then we add a bunch of explosions, lens flares, cringy dialogue, and nonsensical stories that kind of poke plot holes in themselves. Star Trek. So that kind of made me feel a little bit better, but I only learned out after watching this series. So it was a little bit too little too late. I don't usually like to make videos where I tear things apart because I know how difficult it is to make film productions. But in this case, because it's Star Trek and because I know that they're doing it just for money, I'm gonna have to tear this thing apart. I'm gonna make a video where I give these first 3 seasons of this STD not just a roast, but a 5-alarm fucking fire, because this is just no good. This just won't do. It may not be for a while because I'm currently working on tearing apart The Walking Dead World Beyond, and believe me, that show is written. Scott Gimple, that guy continues to be a fuck up. He's just like Michael Burnham. He fucks up and somehow he just keeps getting out on top. But The Walking Dead World Beyond, that's another fucking shit show. God damn. But I'm working on that one right now, and then I'll have the more positive stuff with Smallville will kick off shortly thereafter. So it's really after I do the Smallville content is underway, I'll circle back to this quote-unquote Star Trek abomination and get those going. But I implore you, do not watch Michael Burnham's adventures of, do not watch like Michael Burnham's adventures featuring people in the background on a spaceship or whatever the hell I said before. If you've never seen Star Trek before, don't watch this show. Don't support CBS this way. Don't do it. And if you decide that you do want to watch the show, know that you still wouldn't have seen Star Trek. All right. So if you haven't seen Star Trek before and you decide to watch this show, know that you still wouldn't have seen Star Trek after watching the show. I say you go ahead and get yourself a streaming account or whatever, or get the DVDs or whatever, find them online and watch the original series with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, and then watch the Next Generation with Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis and all them, and then go to Voyager with Captain Janeway. I forget her real name. I always forget her real name. Kate Mulgrew? Is that Mulgrew? Kate Mulgrew and the 7 of 9 and all that, and then go to Deep Space Nine with that whole Dominion War. Great series. But watch those. I guess you should watch Enterprise also with Dr. Sam Beckett. Maybe. I don't know. But watch those series if you want to know what Star Trek's all about. Not this fucking Discovery thing. It's baloney. It's trash. Just skip it all together. All right. I'll see y'all later.